Okay, hey guys, this is Anthony. Doing another video for the channel. I'm going to talk to my peeps out there, see how you guys are doing. You guys doing good? Because I'm doing good too. Okay, now this video I had on the previous channel, I had created one like this. This isn't the exact same one. Um, but I had problems with my audio on the last laptop that I had. I was having some technical difficulties. So when I posted the video posted fine, but the audio was not there. And at the time I had green screen, but green screen is a whole nother medium that I'm going to have to eventually work my way towards. So right now it's not green screen. It's just going to be me having a direct dialogue with you. This topic is on the Illuminati murder of Michael Jackson. Now, for anybody who keeps up with things of the world on a spiritual mindset, which is completely different from anybody that you see on like Dish Nation or anything like that, who actually is in the world and of the world. The Bible speaks against that. You're supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. You're not supposed to live, breathe, and eat everything that the world gives you, because we all know who the God of this world is. And with this video, I'm going to talk about the Illuminati murder of Michael Jackson. Not the death, the murder. This was well planned long before. And I'll explain to you why this was planned. Now you got to remember, Michael Jackson started out in Motown with the Jackson 5, his brothers, signing a recording deal around 5 or 6 years old, actually coming out with a song or two, coming out with ABC was their first hit. By the time he was 10 years old, he had made probably $1 million already. So he was well on his way. Now when you join the record industry, there are certain, like you follow a code of conduct. You have to be able to be molded and shaped by these heads to make you more presentable and more sellable to people, because that's what it's all about. It's about revenue and what you can bring in. Give me 1 second because this camera's moving just a little too much for my taste. Hold on 1 second, you guys. Be able to be marketable to as many different formats and people as possible in order to sell records. That's the overall goal. So going into the industry, they need to know that you're willing to play ball. And since they were children of Joe Jackson, who was tired of working in the steel plant and that heavy, excruciating work, and he had a love for music, and his kids was his gold mine to get there. And he wanted to give the kids a chance to get out of the poverty that most Black Americans have, and that'll be a whole nother video that I'll talk about at another time. But this one is specifically about the Illuminati murder of Michael Jackson. Not death, but murder. By the time Michael Jackson got into his early, like, 18, 19, 20-year-old period.
Blondie cake things.
What?
Caramel blondies.
Never heard of it.
I don't know, there's something sweet that we have to munch on tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, babe.
Love you.
Love you too. So, it went from the Jackson 5, then when they got a little older, Motown had pretty much used up what they were going to do with them, as far as having their hit writers write hit songs for them. Because right after the Jackson 5, you had the Osmonds kicking off, the Partridge Family. So they were throwing in all these family acts to kind of capitalize on what the Jackson 5 had created, this franchise. Cartoons, cereal, the whole nine. By the time they were in their teenage years, Michael wasn't as cute as he was. The boys were already kind of big and gawky when Michael was little and cute. So by the time they were in their late teenage years, they weren't really marketable like that anymore. They couldn't sell them as a wholesome act anymore because they were, a little long in the tooth, so to speak. So they went and they looked at their contracts, and the boys by this time had been in the industry for quite some time and had been in the studio. Michael had been learning the boards and learning what it takes to be an artist. He consumed himself with it, because if Michael didn't go on stage, nobody made any money. Any of the other brothers could be sick, but Michael had to be on stage. So if he was going to be the breadwinner, Michael was going to knuckle under and learn as much as he could. And I give him all the props in the world for that, because that is a heavy burden to carry when you're only 10 years old. Case in point. So by the time they looked at their contracts with Motown, they realized that they had no control over the royalties from their projects. Royalties is money that you would accrue after you have made your initial profits from the song. Every time your song got played, you get a percentage back for your lifetime, and it would be part of your catalog or whatever you would have that you would pass on. They didn't have any of that. They did not have any control over their music. They couldn't do any writing. They didn't have any royalties that they would receive after the initial profits. So they went to court to try to absolve the contract to move on to greener pastures and to get some of the money that they were owed for the royalties that had been continuously selling. Because if you look at TV, they still use ABC, Stop the Love You Save, and commercials and ads and stuff, but the Jackson family doesn't get any of that. So when they left Motown, they went to court. Motown got to keep the name the Jackson 5, and they got to keep all the royalties for the songs. So when they left, they changed their name to the Jacksons, which was kind of good too, because the Jackson 5 was more of a kiddie name. The Jacksons said that they're moving into young manhood, which was good. You know what I mean? Like, they're moving up. They're not living in yesterday. They're looking forward to tomorrow. So with Epic Records, which is who they signed to after Motown, they were given control to write their own songs. They were given points and consideration and royalties with their albums. They were moving on. But they had a few hits during the disco era. Shake Your Body Down to the Ground, Can You Feel It? But the disco era, the Bee Gees kind of burned disco out. Donna Summers and all those other acts that were just kind of spinning records. And disco became so hated, an oversaturation of disco. So disco went away, and then you started seeing tags for disco sucks, because 80s was moving in, and graffiti and hip hop and all those things were taking shape. So the music industry was changing yet again. Michael had released a solo record when he was with the Jackson 5, Ben, which was a song about a rat that he a love song about a rat, and that being his true friend, kind of giving you a hint at the isolation that he was going through. But when he was with Epic and his brothers, and they had the disco era, he was looking to make a transition. So Michael came out, he signed a deal with them to do his own music, his own contract. Michael's first effort by himself was Off the Wall, which sold 8 million albums, which is kind of like, that's a knock to Hollywood to say, hey, if he made 8 million sales off of this one album, he could be very influential around the world. So you know who came knocking. The big man of this world came knocking. I believe this. Now, this is not fact by any means. I don't want anybody going around saying that this is fact. This is my personal theory. That this is when the Illuminati, or the higher ups that get their correspondence directly from the evil man himself, decided, okay, let's strike a deal with this guy. They struck a deal with Michael because Michael was still trying to prove himself to the world, and that he could be greater successful than he was with the Jackson 5. So they came knocking. He signed a deal with the Illuminati and became this public persona that catapulted him way beyond where he was with the Jackson 5. He became Michael Jackson Thriller, which Michael was getting a heavier amount of money, like was spoken before with TLC. There's 100 points on the album. TLC got 7 to divide between the 3 of them. Michael Jackson was getting like $1.50 per album he sold. He was getting an enormously high amount of money per record because he had proven himself as an artist. He sold 50 million albums with Thriller initially. So he made like 50, 60 something million dollars off that one album. He was filming Say, Say, Say with Paul McCartney. Actually, the video, Say, 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 if you go look it up, that video is filmed where Neverland is right now. He bought that property from Paul McCartney because that was Paul McCartney's property. And while they were on the set filming the video, they were sitting in a limo getting ready. They were setting up the next shot or whatever it was. And Michael was talking to Paul McCartney because Michael always had these ideas of grandeur and wanting to move himself up. He said, well, how do you make money in the industry? It's not about the initial contract, because most artists go broke before they die. The way you keep your money is to keep growing and creating money. And that's by buying catalogs. Well, Michael had all this extra money to spend, so he bought that property, also went in deal with Sony to buy a catalog that was up for sale. Whose catalog? Paul McCartney's catalog. Paul McCartney told him about buying catalog music, not particularly his. Michael saw the opportunity and heard about it through the grapevine and told Paul McCartney in the limo on the set, I'm going to buy your music, and laughed. Paul McCartney thought he was joking, but Michael was not playing. He was not playing. And I can't get mad at Michael because the industry and people in the industry have been doing this to black artists for way too long. So, I mean, is very ruthless and cutthroat, and I will say that. But it's not unheard of in this industry or any industry for that matter. Hell, look at what's the Enron guys? Look at all this. They take from one person and they robbing from each other. But his was legal, but it's still a form of robbery. I mean, on a spiritual level, it's a form of robbery. It's deceit, but on the earth, it's fair play. It's considered fair. But that's the big evil man that runs this place. That's his game. So Michael had all this extra money. He bought the property for Say Video and turned that into Neverland. The rest of his money, he went into a deal with Sony and paid 50-50 for the catalog. Michael eventually came out with Bad album. Michael was doing bad, and all of a sudden, that's when the controversy came up about him sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber, him with the bubbles monkey, the monkey bubbles, all of this other good stuff. So the engine was already trying to see, okay, he's getting a little too big for his britches. The same thing they did with Bill Cosby. That's what they're doing with Bill Cosby. When he tried to buy NBC, he got a little too big for his britches, so we got to knock him down a few pegs. But Michael had such a momentum going from being so likable that then the rumors of him being gay came out. Now, this is before the time now where it's okay to be who you are. This was back in the time where they were trying to knock him down a few pegs. So you remember when Bad came out, he did a video called Moonwalker. Well, he owned the Beatles catalog by then. So at the end of the Moonwalker video, he does a song, Come Together. That's the Beatles song. They talked about Moonwalker, gave it all kind of rave reviews and this, that, and other, but every critic universally panned that song because they didn't like the fact, they don't mind when Elvis Presley steals a black artist song and does it. They don't care about that. But God forbid a black artist takes a white artist song, somebody they treasure like the Beatles, and does it. I don't care how good it was. And I don't really know if Michael's version was even as good as the Beatles. I don't really care for the Beatles. They're like Wonder Bread, you know what I mean? It's there, but it really just, I guess it wasn't for me. It wasn't for my market, for my demographic, so I could care less either way. But they really, really hated that song. So, over this time, they're slowly building up their engine that is going to try to destroy Michael because he's getting too powerful. So Michael got to a point where he got very, very arrogant because after the Bad album, he came out with Dangerous. Now, Michael's having parties and he's showing up for award shows. And he's got all these kids with him. Because remember back in the time of Thriller, he went to the Grammys with Emmanuel Lewis Webster. No one saw that as odd because Emmanuel Lewis was actually a grown man, but he looked like a child. When Michael Jackson showed up to the World Music Awards and he had that little boy sitting on his lap, that little boy, Jordan Chandler, was the same one who sued him and got the $20 million. They told Michael when the commercial break was on that you need to get that child off your lap because that doesn't look good on camera. But Michael had the world handed to him, and he had been on such a high that he could do no wrong, at least he thought so. He didn't pay it any attention. All of a sudden, now when Michael Jackson took Emmanuel Lewis to the Grammys during the Thriller era, Emmanuel Lewis was an adult by then, but he had that body and the look of a child. Do I believe Michael Jackson was a pedophile? Honestly, I don't. Because there's no way in the world he would not set himself up. He would not work himself that hard to become #1 to get taken down by something so obvious. And he always prided himself on being different from everybody else. So that would be an easy line to draw, you know what I mean? So I don't think he would set himself up for that kind of thing. So when Michael Jackson showed up at the World Music Awards with this little boy who later sued him, it was a perfect way to get people to look at that and say, okay, he's doing this. And this was the final tactic that they could use to kind of bring Michael down. Michael said, no, I'm not going to pay you the amount of money you want. So he tried to pursue it in a legal act and let them file the legal action thinking the public would be on his side about it. And they were not. So Michael eventually paid them off, which makes no sense because if they offered to get money from you before and you refused them, why would you wait until it hit a public forum to pay them? You know what I mean? You would have done it. If you knew you were guilty of molesting a child, you would have paid them before it came out, not after. But he realized that the public wasn't going to stand with him, so he wasn't as untouchable as he thought he was. I don't know how long Michael Jackson's deal was with the Dark One. I don't know how long his deal was. Because, you know, with a heavy price, you know, you got to pay the piper sooner or later. And even they give hints to it in The 2020 interview he did with Lisa Marie Presley. If you watch the opening introduction of it, Diane Sawyer sits down to talk with Michael. And as she walks outside of the studio with Michael down the steps, and Michael dances a little bit for the camera, and she mentions that it's his Faustian deal. Is it going to become his tomb or his prison? And if you remember, and if you look this up, Dr. Faustus is a play that happened hundreds of years ago. Dr. Faustus was a man who wanted great knowledge and went and sold his soul to the devil to get it. And the devil came to collect his soul. Dr. Faustus. If you look at the intro to Diane Sawyer's 2020 interview with Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie, she talks about his Faustian deal, which is for the devil to get your soul. Now, the same prison, the same excitement and joy that he got from being the #1 entertainer in the world also became his prison, because now he is held to a higher standard. And he could not do the things normal people can do, but it's a great price to pay for the fame that you asked for. Now, Michael comes out with Black or White is when the Charges and the Dangerous album was when the Charges and all that took hold. Michael comes back out with History. The first Charges, he had to pay $20 million to get rid of it. The second time around, he did the History album. He's touring, doing all of these things, but he still hasn't knocked down his pride. He's still very high and mighty. And they're like, oh no, this is not going to work. So they're still trying to shame him and bring him down a peg, because that's what happens. Eddie Griffin said it, that no black male entertainer leaves Hollywood without a scandal attached to them. So History goes along. It doesn't sell as much as he wants it to, but he's still doing well, very well by any standards. Then Invincible comes out, and Sony intentionally tanks Invincible, because right around that time, Another Child comes up. Michael does that stupid documentary with Martin Bashir, which was a no-no just to start with, because Martin Bashir just wanted money. He wants his name out there. And not long after that piece of garbage that he came out living with Michael Jackson, ABC signed him to a deal. They later fired his ass, but they kept him for a while. Now, mind you, why would they hire him if he had such a bad track record of being dishonest? When the behind-the-scenes footage came out and said he was saying one thing to Michael but putting another thing in front of the camera. So his tactics was already dishonest. So why would ABC, supposed to be a non-bipartisan affiliate between Fox News and CNN, why would they hire him to host their show and then turn around and fire him for unethical practices when they knew that's what he was doing to start with the Living with Michael Jackson documentary? Kind of makes you wonder, huh? So they already knew what kind of person he was, and they turn around and fire him later. But this shows you how all of these world organizations and conglomerates all feed from the same source, which is Satan himself. Call him whatever you want to call him, negative energy or whatever the New Agers call it. It's one malevolent force that is doing it. So History, Sony tanks that intentionally. Then along the second child molestation charges come out. Now Michael Jackson's at the end of his contract now. So he can fight it because he let the first one go, because he's still standing to make another $1 billion on the 3 albums he had left on his contract. Well, by the time Invincible come out, this is pretty much the end of Michael's contract, so he had time to fight it, and it wouldn't hurt him any because he had already made the money that he was going to make throughout his career. So he chooses to fight this one. But they're continuously taking him back to court because Michael had amassed so much wealth between the catalog, the property, and all the income he had coming in. They had to keep slowly chipping away at the money he made to get him in a situation where he was poor enough and would be forced to sell that catalog. But Michael was like, no, I'm not selling that catalog. And let me tell you how devious Sony Music is. Not only Tommy Mottola, all the record industry, all the video media, television outlets, they all answer to that same call. Let me show you how devious they are. Michael, when he signed that contract to buy the ATV Sony catalog with the Beatles songs and everybody else's songs, Michael gave Little Richard back his royalties, because that's what the record labels do. They let you write a song. You can write as many songs for your album as you want to, but one song has to be written by somebody else because they consider that a monopoly. So they let you have to use somebody else's material. But since Michael owned the catalog, every song that he picked was from the catalog he owned. So everything from his albums went to him. Michael was a beast now. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. He may play nice and easy, but Michael was a beast. Michael was a motherfucking beast when it came to business work, paperwork, and money. He didn't play games. So this is what Sony did. Sony had it where Michael Jackson had a lawyer who worked with him on his behalf of buying the catalog. Sony had a lawyer that worked with them on their behalf of the catalog. Now, in appearances, it seemed like Sony had a different attorney than Michael. But when it came down to the dispute over the Invincible album taking, Michael and Sony were going in separate ways. And Michael, what's that, baby? Michael and Sony were going in separate ways. Well, they wanted the catalog and they wanted to force Michael out. Well, Michael's a smart man. He had his lawyers looking into it. The same lawyer who, on appearances, brokered the deal for Michael, but in appearances had no affiliation with Sony. Michael dug back a little deeper. And you have to look at the devil. They say the devil's in the details. It's always in the details. What appears on the up and up isn't always on the up and up. Michael found out that the same attorney that brokered the deal on his behalf used to work for Sony. That's a no-no. That's a conflict of interest. You can't have it that way. So Michael took that before the judge and got his relationship with Sony absolved. Michael walked away from Sony Music. Sony thought they were going to take their catalog. No, the hell you're not. Michael owns that catalog. Michael owned half of that catalog. So Michael walked away owning half of Sony Music. That didn't sit well because they've been using the legal system and all these suits to try to destroy him. Hard Copy with Diane Diamond, TMZ, and all of these other paparazzi festering, feeding frenzies of people just feeding off of the misfortune of others. That's what they do. So they thought that they were going to get the deal. They were going to get that catalog. They didn't get that damn catalog. Oh, now they got bloodlust in their eyes. They got the bloodlust. They're going to get him. So this is pretty much when the only way they're going to take Michael down is he's got to go. He's got to go. They can say, well, who in particular said this? It doesn't matter who the hell particular said it. It came from up top. And we know up top is the God of this world. Not the God in heaven, but the one that runs all the networks, media, record labels, and everything else. That's why I say when you watch those TV televangelists that are all over every channel, Bishops, Jakes, Creflo Dollar, and all of this crap, they all playing on a world stage, and the world is governed by the devil himself. So look at those false prophets who you call pastors, because they all play on a world stage, and the world belongs to the devil. So with this being said, Michael got out of the contract with Sony. He walked away and was a free agent. Sony only had half the catalog. Michael owned the other half of the catalog. So Michael, what they did was with the second suit, Michael had to liquidate all his funds. So he sold off Neverland because after that raid the first time around, Michael used that as an excuse. I don't want Neverland anymore. But he was determined not to get rid of that catalog because every artist, especially black artists, dies without owning any property and dies just as penniless as they did when they came in. Michael was not having that. So he got rid of Neverland. Neverland was going to be his Graceland. Screw that shit. Michael owns all the music that's coming out now and stuff that's been out. So I don't care about the property. You can always build a property later, put Michael Jackson there and that Graceland, or whatever you want to call it. That's incidental. Don't get rid of the catalog because you are your whole race's legacy in the music industry. You hold all the music for artists that you didn't even have the pleasure of working with. Now he worked with Paul McCartney, but he has everybody's music. And that's a tremendous victory, especially for a black artist. And they did everything in their power to make sure Michael was broke enough where he would be forced to sell that catalog, which he did not do. Now, I know this video is a little long, you guys, but I just want you to know what's going on. So Michael, in turn, still had the catalog, still had enough income to be able to move around. So now they said, well, they were spoken that Michael was worth more dead than alive. When they say that, that means that it came from the higher ups. The higher up being the devil himself. It's time to pay your debt. Because in History album, Michael Jackson wrote a song called Money. I would lie for you, die for you. I would even sell my soul to the devil. Now in this song, he's talking about the industry itself. He's talking about the TMZ, the paparazzi, the tabloids. But he's also talking about the deal he made too. Because you all are in the same cesspool together. You know what I mean? You're laying in a bed, you're laying in the den of scorpions. All of you are going to get bit up. You know what I mean? And Michael's trying to get out of it, but I'm sorry, it's like you can't win from the movie The Wiz. You can't break even and you can't get out of the game. So Michael left with that half of that catalog, and they kept saying, oh, he's broke, he's broke, he's broke. And they said that they knew that when Michael went to go do another concert that he was broke. Michael died Michael died with $5 million cash on him. Now, how he got that was a whole other thing. Michael's very smart when it comes to money. Don't get it twisted. Michael's very savvy when it comes to money. But the thing of it is that they couldn't get the catalog from Michael while he was alive because he knew Michael did not want to fuck with Sony no more. By the way, they tried to do him. So Michael went to go to the tour, to do the tour. Well, the puppet strings had already been played. The devil wanted that soul, and he was going to get that soul. Sony wanted that damn catalog. So the devil may not have directly told one person, but he put wheels in motion. How you can start a domino from this end, and by the time it gets to here, it does what you want it to do. It's the exact same thing. From the spirit world, you put one ship in motion and watch them all fall down. Michael was set up to be killed because the only way Sony was going to get their hands on that catalog is that Michael was not here to fight it, because Michael would not fuck with them. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't fuck with him because all they did was try to screw him. They tried to give him the hard one. But Michael wasn't going to do that. So what they did was, oh, it's an unfortunate accident. But they had planned that a long time ago. Just because that one person is holding the knife doesn't mean that that plan was not being set up a long time ago. They kept chipping away at his finances through all these frivolous lawsuits to make him broke enough where he would be forced to sell a catalog. But Michael had more than one trick up his sleeve. Because I'm no longer selling albums, I'm still the most important person in the world. I can go overseas and go to some kid's birthday party and get paid $1 million to shake hands with people. And that's what he did too. If you look in the records, he did that as well. Just to show up to a birthday party and make $1 million. So Michael had more than one way to create revenue. So when Michael went to go do this, the dominoes had already been falling. So they got Michael to a point where he was desperate to prove himself and wasn't watching the people that were around him. So when Michael lost his life, sadly to say, Sony came in and tried. They can only rent the portion of Michael's catalog, and they had to pay an exorbitant $300-something million to do it. Not mind you, all the music Michael Jackson owns privately that has never been released. He paid $4 million. He'd have Sony pay $4 million for a song written by Diane Warren when she was the hit maker at the time when Babyface was. Didn't even use the damn song. So Michael has a vault of music that he can make revenue off of, which is where the Escape album comes from. All of this, just more chips for the bank. But they couldn't get the catalog from Michael while he was alive because Michael didn't want to fuck with him. So when he died, the first person who went up to try to get that catalog or to rent it for a certain, was it 7 to 10 year period or whatever the hell the term of the contract was, they had to pay like $300 million. Sony. Because that's the only way they was going to get their hands on Michael's half of that catalog. And then the contracts, all of a sudden Michael's in New York on the top of a tour bus saying that Tommy Mottola is the devil and he's a racist and all of that. But somewhere, poof, after Michael dies, pops up a will that says he signed this will on September the 11th or wherever he was in 2001, but Michael Jackson was on film over there in New York, so how in the hell could he sign a contract in California? But the thing of it is that these contracts, all that money that they're getting, all these Illuminati members, Kanye West, Nicki Minaj and all of them, you only renting that money for a while because I guarantee you they're going to be just as broke when they go out as they did when they came in. You're only renting it for a while. And I wanted to do this video so people could see what was going on. And if you don't believe me, go and look up some of the topics that I discussed in this video. Baby, you are shaking the camera something for this.
I'm so sorry, baby.
If you don't believe me, check it out. But I just wanted to do this video really quickly. I know it's like 30 minutes long. I hope you guys stayed with it. But if not, just download it and check on it again later and, compare things. And if you have any ideas of things that I haven't covered, make sure you mention it below, because if I have to do a part 2 to this video, I am more than willing to do it. Michael Jackson has always been a favorite of mine, but you cannot give your soul for the things in this world, because everything in this world will pass away, but the soul itself will be eternal, whether in heaven or in hell. This is Anthony Young, you guys. Remember to hit like and subscribe. I know this was a serious subject, but next time around it'll be something more fun, and we can get back to cutting up and being ourselves. So until then, you guys, I will talk to you later. Have a good one.